What is going on, everybody? I am Nate, your host, and host is actually like a perfect way of describing him because I'm taking today off. I'm going to make Jim do all of my work. Ha ha, Jim.
That's not very nice. Maybe I don't do your work.
Sure you do. You're Robin. You love doing my work. You love doing all of my free labor.
All right, then. Is something funny happened to my camera? Or is that all right like that?
I don't know. You look blue. Does he look blue?
Hold on a second. Probably
I don't know. Well, the rest of our people, we got Jim Telfer in the top right.
He's as purple as the 5-ball.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Pink 4, purple 5, pink 4, purple 5. We got Mike Panozzo of Billiard Digest right below me. We have Demetrius Jelatis in the bottom right. And we lost Molina Mike, but he exists some. Oh, he's completely gone now. All right. Well, he must not have liked my intro. Boo.
He likes stop billing.
I think what happened is he ended up going out to share it quick. And in sharing it, he ended up getting booted out. So I'm sure he'll be back in just a few seconds, and I'm going to get this shared as well. And if you're tuning in right away, please give this a share as well. We are going to be talking about, oh my God, what aren't we talking about today? This is there a better time for pool? Well, I mean, let me ask this question before we get started. Is there a better stretch of pool all year long than the last 3 weeks? Jim, what do you think?
It's been busy, hasn't it? Crazy busy. I bet. Well, probably not. No, there's a lot of exciting stuff going on. We saw a lot of. There was a big buzz. I enjoyed the extra buzz that was getting generated. You include the whole Cheng against Shane, which people have been waiting a long time for. Judd Trump playing in the U.S. Open. There was a big buzz
Alex
in the pool.
Tony.
Yeah, which is always nice. Always nice when that kind of thing happens. And the fact that we were gaining some sort of attention from perhaps outside the standard pool viewers. Yeah, only positive things, really. Yeah.
Demetrius, what do you think? Is there a better stretch of pool?
Yeah, this has been great. I feel like when COVID came, it was obviously really tough, and I feel like events started happening, but it was like the spatters in a rainstorm, and I feel like the clouds have really burst now, and it's full speed ahead.
Mike, Jim, or Mike and Mike? Molina first.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's been a gauntlet, and as a diehard pool fan, I love it. But I tell you, I'm tired, man. I'm tired. I'm ready. I'm kind of as much as COVID sucked and it was terrible not having anything going on, I'm kind of ready for a little bit of a break as I'm about to go and take a flight to South Carolina.
South Carolina, right?
Yeah, I'll be off for a few weeks after that, and then I'll probably see Panozzo out there in at the International at the end of the month.
Looking forward to that. Yeah. No, this has been a great time for pool. It was kind of bound to happen. I think everybody, early in COVID, everybody thought that this was going to happen last year in the third and fourth quarter, where all of a sudden everything was going to open up. It took us about a year longer to do it, but yeah, I don't know how you and guys like Molina Mike and Joey Ryan and you guys are out there. You guys were out there for 6 weeks straight, 8 weeks straight, whatever it was. That's crazy. You guys are well. It pays to be young. I don't have those. I don't have those kind of tires anymore. So, but no, it was a lot of fun, and like Jim said, it was really active. Social media made it a lot of fun because everybody was dialed in and everybody was vested and everybody was, loving it. So, yeah, it was a good stretch. Yeah.
And I'm still not sure how I did it either, especially after what you did to me in Vegas at that cocktail bar. Man, I don't even remember the second half of that night, but that was a good time, Mike.
Well, I do have my strengths.
I'll tell you what, that was.
Do you remember calling me when you were drunk? And FaceTiming with me?
Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah, with Appleberry.
Oh, you're drunk dialing Jim Telfer?
Drunk dialing.
What would you rather do?
He was a man.
That's the booty call he was expected.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
kidding,
we were.
right?
What was it? It was Appleberry.
It was a 2 a.m. call.
What was it? No, it was 3 a.m. I think.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It was what was it? It was Appleberry and myself and Jason Shaw, and we were all sitting at the bar having some cocktails, and we're like, you know, it'd be really funny if we called up Jim and called him a beep.
So they did that. Yeah.
Oh, it's all out of love. It's all out of love. So, all right, let's get jumped into this, I guess. We're going to talk about Shane and Cheng first. And so let's start from the controversy that we wanted to talk about, because Jim is just salivating with the opportunity to plead his case that both players are pathetically weak and dogged everybody out of a phenomenal finish. So the context was they were playing a race to 120. And Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I want to say Shane was down about 115 to about 104.
114, 105, or 114, 106, I think it was. Yeah.
Okay, so 114 to 105, 106, something like that. And he ends up tying it up at 115 to 115. And the photo has been circulating around where Shane is like up in his seat and he's cheery and happy. And Cheng's over in his seat like drooped out, like he just got hit by a bus or something like that. And what they ended up deciding to do at that point is to stop the race and start it over the next day in a race to 40. So instead of playing a race to 5 for $80,000, they decided to start it over and do a race to 5 or 40 for $80,000. Jim, I guess, why don't you tell us exactly what you thought of that move?
All right. Well, I correct me if I'm wrong about here. Correct me if I'm wrong about what I'm saying here. So Chang's 114 to 106 up. He's destroyed physically. But when you're ahead by that amount, it keeps you going. It keeps your energy feeling. He's feeling good about winning this match. He might be tired, but he's feeling good about winning it. Shane's feeling good, but it's not getting, his break's not kicking in. If anything, I think Cheng probably broke a little bit better than Shane, which was kind of unexpected.
He certainly made more balls in the break.
And that kind of made a little bit of the difference. You saw it as well with scratch statistics on the break and break and runs. I think Shane had his maximum was a 3 or a 4, and Cheng was up at a 7 or 8 or something like that. So some of the stats were a little bit round the other way than what you would expect. But anyway, so it's 114 to 106, and Shane starts eating into his lead, and Shane catches a bit of a gear. So as Shane's catching him, Cheng starts fading a little bit, and of course, the fatigue that he's feeling starts to weigh on him even heavier, and he's not got that, he's feeling like, this is getting bad for me. Shane's getting wings, he's catching up, and he's thinking, I can go. So they get to 115. Shane's thinking,
Let me jump in really quick, Jim. Because there's a question out there from Tom Koshas. There was Shane Van Boning basically said that there was somebody who sent him a text message that got him, the fire to kind of come back. And that person that texted him, I think was Scott Frost or Billy Thorpe. I think he was texting both of them at the time. I think Billy Thorpe was the one who gave him the text message that motivated him.
I think it was Scott.
Was it Scott?
Yeah.
Okay, it was either Scott or Billy Thorpe. He was texting both of them at the time, from my understanding. So that's to answer your question, Tom. And go on, Jim.
So then, so anyway, they come back to 115. Now, if at that moment in time, the players had agreed, you know what, we're both a bit tired, let's call it a day and come back, I'd have less of an issue with it. The issue I have, Shane's thinking he's favourite, and he is favourite at that moment. Chang's in his seat, we saw the pictures, he's dying, but before you get into a race with Cheng to 120, you're going to have long days. You're going to have 3 long days. I mean, look at that match that he played in the World Finals against Fedor. I mean, he makes Shane look like Usain Bolt running around the table, I mean, and Shane's a pretty steady player. He's not one of the quickest. So anyway, they're 115. Shane's favourite. Nothing's discussed. He goes up, thinks, I'm going to take this match. He breaks, doesn't get position on the 1, plays a poor shot, leaves an open 1 ball, and that's the moment that he then goes to Cheng and says, you know what, shall we call this a day and go to 40? For me, of course, Cheng sees a get out of jail card. He thinks he's not favourite. Shane thinks it's only 5 racks. Cheng can run this set out from here. Cheng thinks, I'm dying in my seat here. Shane's just pulled me back from 114, 106. Shane's favourite here. So both of them, in my opinion, the decision has been made through both of them thinking they're going to lose the match. And neither of them willing to say, I'm going to take this match. It's 5 racks, it's mine. And that's what I meant by saying that both players shit the bed. This decision was made based on the fact that neither player felt they were favourite to win the match.
But okay, so
I disagree.
For me as a sports person,
I disagree.
completely agree. Just let me finish. I completely agree. It's their match. It's up to them to do whatever they want with the match. Completely agree, 100%. I'm just looking at it from a sports side. I would have liked to have seen somebody stand up and say, no, we said 120, I'm going to win it from here. And it didn't happen, you know?
All right, so
right.
Demetrius clearly wants to take the other side.
Yeah.
So go on, Demetrius.
So I think there's two different questions. One is, was it allowed to renegotiate? And then the second one is, should they have? So let's just table the issue and assume that it's up to the players to negotiate their own format and it's only between them. Because that's a totally different question, which has its own. Okay, this reminds me, there was a really interesting situation that came up in a chess world championship a couple of years ago where it came down to the last game they had a 12-game series. And if they tied, then they go to a series of playoffs of rapid games. And the world champion, the reigning world champion, all he had to do was win this game, and he would be the world champion. But if he drew the game, he goes into playoffs, and they play a bunch more quicker time control games. So Magnus Carlsen, the world champion, had a winning position. Like, it was shown that he could probably have forced a win. But he played extremely passive, he was very, very careful, and was happy to agree to a draw, because he figured he could just outplay the guy in the playoffs. And then that's exactly what happened. They went to the rapid games, and Magnus cleaned up and held his championship. And everybody around the world, all these chess purists, were like, he should have pressed, and it was his game, and he just and Magnus Carlsen was defending himself in the interview, and he said, when you guys have a world championship title to defend, you can defend it how you like. He says, I felt that, if I press, I'm one mistake away from losing, but if I go to playoffs, I feel very, very confident that I can outplay him over a series of quicker games. I guess here's the way I get what you're saying, which is they were both playing not to lose, kind of like they both felt like they were going to lose. And so they kind of squirmed away from that adversity. And I could kind of get that. But I don't necessarily feel like Shane is probably thinking of it like, what's my most likely road to victory? And I feel like Shane was feeling like, hey, I think I could get there in a race to 5. But after where I was and how I've been playing and how he's been outbreaking me and how I've been underperforming, and now I was almost eliminated, and rather than let things come down to a scramble, I bet you Shane just felt extremely confident that coming in the next day, he could do exactly what he did and just put the hammer down and run away with it. If anything, I felt that he was going to win either way, and I felt that Cheng was up against it either way. So I think if anybody is going to question a decision, it would be, should Cheng have taken a shot knowing that this was his best chance he's going to get? But I think in terms of Shane, I don't think Shane was of fear of losing that night. I just think he was trying to maximize his chances of winning because I think he spilled blood.
Okay,
All right, Melina, Mike, what do you think?
Oh, can I just answer 2 points on that first?
Sure, go ahead.
Just quickly. One, the chess thing that you were talking about, those rules were known before the start of the event.
That's true. Very good point.
These are made up on the spot. And secondly, why is Shane not offered this before he breaks in rack 131?
That's a good point too.
That's my 2 points on that. Yeah. Okay, Mike.
Yep, and Jason Shaw says Cheng should hurt his ankle a little bit more if he breaks that good. That's funny.
I mean, you're bringing up the rules, but let's call it what it is. It's a gambling match between two people, that they happen to allow everyone to go and watch. It's not about winning. Nobody gives a shit about a W at the end of the day. They care about getting their money in with the best of it. So at 6 a.m., after playing for 13 hours, and it's a race to 5, they don't want to go and gamble, let's say 50 grand a piece on a race to 5 at 6 o'clock in the morning when they're dead tired. Cheng had a look, Shane offered it up, and they snap called him in a sense once they went and agreed to the terms. But it's not rules like you're playing in a Super Bowl. It's not rules like you're playing in a World Series or in a tournament format or anything like that. It's a gambling match, and they can do whatever it is they want as long as the backers agree and the players agree. Everything else, the side bets, I get it from a sports perspective, but we're not going to go and cement legacies here in a race to whatever it was, 120. They're both elite 10 ball players. They're both two of probably the best 10 ball players on earth. Cheng got to 100. Shane got to 120 first. You really start to go and split hairs if you really want to look at it from a pure sports perspective. Now, did Cheng go and shit the bed a little bit? Yeah, I think he did, but it was 5 a.m. Shane showed that he was more seasoned, had more heart, had more of a grind, had more gas in the tank than Cheng did at that time. But if had they stopped at let's say 3 a.m. and they had a stopping point every night, could Cheng could have gone and won? I think so, but we'll never know.
No.
At the end of it, whatever it is they agreed to, which is that race to 40, it was more of the backers and the players getting their money in with the best of it. They wanted to go in there more fresh to go and battle on a day 4. When, mind you, because everyone said that it was a money grab at the end for pay-per-views. I saw comments like that. Listen, they didn't go and budget for that, so all those extra hotels and all those extra
absolutely
cost, all that extra cost that's associated with putting on for one more day, guess who goes and eats it? Now, did they get more buys? That's a possibility, but you'll never know, and they never knew. And on top of that, they didn't do so hot when it came to that pay-per-view because this match was kind of an afterthought a little bit in the grand scheme of Las Vegas and the U.S. Open and the Diamond event and everything else. It really was kind of an afterthought whenever it actually went down.
I honestly forgot that it even happened until like an hour into the match.
And it's in Texas in my backyard, but it's a gambling match between two people that they happen to go and put on to allow us to go and view. So whatever agreement or changes they go and make, it's between them and all the other railbirds on the side. We just got to go and deal with it or don't watch.
Yeah. So one question I have. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go.
Okay, well, the one question I have for you, Mike, as the resident gambler of the crew here, if you originally took the match at Shane, let's say +6, or Cheng +6, it doesn't really matter, and let's say you have Cheng +6, do you win that bet because Cheng gets to 135, or does it reset once you get to the 160 or I guess 155, and then he lost by 6? Do you lose the bet there, or you win the bet, or is it a push? What do you think?
No, because you agreed to it based off of 120. So once Cheng reaches that number, so like I had Cheng +10, right? Once Cheng got to 110, that was a win because that agreement and the number we came on was based off a race to 120. Now, had we known it was going to be a race to, what was it, 155 or 160, then we would have gone and negotiated based off of that. But once you go and cover, you've already covered. But the people on the outright win, it's a little bit different. I mean, even though Shane still got to 120 first, right? Because he did, it was 120, 119 at one point. The outright win is still open, but you got to go and make sure you touch base with that person before that match kicks off at 4 p.m. It's a little, I mean, it can be a pain in the ass, but I mean, you got to go and take that time.
All right, Mike. But all right, Jim, what?
It is a win, though.
Yeah. Jim, what's your response?
I agree with everything that the Mike said there about, it's their match, it's their gamble, it's up to them what they do. I remember a few months ago or whatever, we were talking about these big money matches and the race to 120 and stuff like that, and for the viewers, you're paying for these, and maybe one out of, I mean, we've been quite lucky recently, with Shane and Dennis going close and stuff like that. But in the past, it's been maybe if you get 1 out of 5 becomes close, then you're happy because the majority of them are kind of end up blowouts. So halfway through day 2, you already know who's going to win it, and it's just about by how much. And it was so disappointing that these guys got to that stage where it's your dream scenario as a neutral fan, or even as somebody sweating the match, to see these guys get that close and to see who's going to get over the line, whether or not they're tired or not, whether or not they're missing 3 balls every single rack because they're tired. It adds to the drama. And I know it's a match, they've got a lot of money on it, their backers have got a lot of money on it. But purely as a fan, it just felt like, oh, really? This is what we've been waiting for. This is exactly what you want to see. And it's been taken away from us. Now, they don't owe it to us. I know that's what Mike's going to say, however. They don't owe the fans it. Agreed, completely, but it's still disappointing. You can still be disappointed that you didn't get to see that finish. And for me, day 4 wasn't even worth watching because Shane was massive favourite. He was a bigger favourite day 4 than he was getting to 120. I mean, that match was never good. It was never really going to be very close. I mean, you talk about fatigue and saying both players were fatigued. What time did they leave the club in the morning, Mike?
About 6 a.m.
6:30, 7 o'clock.
and they agreed to play again at 4 the next day. And Shane turned up.
Next time you think that, come find me and we can get you a big bet, Jim. Next time you think he's a massive favorite, we can get you a really big bet, because I guarantee you the ones who were betting didn't go and think he was a massive favorite going into day 4. They liked their chances, but he wasn't a massive favorite.
All right, let's see if Mike Panozzo, let's see if you agree with Jim or if Jim's on his own.
No, Jim's on his own. He knows that before I even start talking. Yeah, but no, here's the thing, and Jim's right. As a fan, you can be disappointed, but as a fan, you can't be. I don't think you can be offended. I mean, this is a gambling match that you got to watch over somebody's shoulder, and when it gets to did Shane break and see that Shane got a look and worry he was going to lose? I don't think so, because he said, here's this guy. He got up, he looked at the table, he saw he had a shot, he walked back to his chair and slumped in his chair. I mean, he had an open shot and he could barely get to the table. So then it comes down to, you're the backers who've backed this huge match. You've got $100,000 into it, whatever it is. You don't want these two guys going a race to 5. You don't want your horse going a race to 5 when he can barely stand up. I mean, that's your money on the line more than it is the players. I mean, the players can benefit from it, but it's your pocket. So, it was I think it was a smart move by both players at that point. I mean, if they could barely focus and barely concentrate, I don't want to see, two guys limping to the last end line, both playing 3 cushion either as a fan. So they go to the next day, they race to 40. I think Shane, felt very good about getting to the next day. And Cheng probably felt good about getting to the next day too, because I don't know if he could have stayed awake for the last 5 games. So, to me, it came down to that, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They're both warriors. I mean, they both went through, 3 days, and now they're going to go play a 4th day. I mean, talk about, sadomasochistic approach to pool. So yeah, I mean, I was all for it. It was a little disappointing because I didn't think Shane was robbing the next day, but you could kind of see the writing was on the wall that he was going to be favored the next day because he had a jump in his step and Cheng just wanted to go to bed. So, that was my take on it.
I have 1 or 2 more comments if I could squeeze in real quick.
Let me jump in real quick. I just created a poll, so you guys can vote out there who are watching this. You can be on Jim's side, or you can be on everybody else's side. Tell us in the poll whose side you're on in this debate. Go ahead, Demetrius.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I agree with a lot. When Omar and Oscar were 98 apiece and they played it out, that was great drama. One thing about this is that, I think about it comes down to a race to 5. But really, if you're betting a bunch of money, you're betting that you're going to beat, you're betting that you're going to beat them by enough that it doesn't come down to a scramble. And you had plenty of chances to hold your guy to where it wasn't going to come down to a scramble. And if you failed to hold your guy to 10 or 15 or 20 games behind and it comes down to a scramble, then that's your own fault for getting there. You can't sit there and be like, oh, it came down to a race. It's like, well, you let it come down to a race. I think what I'd like to see is, I think that it would be, I used to think of races to 100 or races to 120 like they were just decisive. Like, we're going to find out who the better player is. And maybe when Shane played Corey 15 years ago, maybe that was the case. But right now, I feel like the level of play has closed to where the players are close, and their level of play, they're putting so many racks together that we've seen this with, Sky and Dennis on the bar table. We saw this with Dennis and Shane on the 9-ball, and now this with the 10-ball. It's no longer like we're watching these matches. We're like, well, Shane proved he's the better player. It's like, no, he got there. He won. And whether it's on day 4 or whether it's by 5 racks, it just doesn't feel like these are as decisive formats. So in my opinion, if these formats aren't as decisive as they used to be because play is closed and the rack runs have gotten longer, maybe it would be better just to do something more tournament structure for the fans, best of 3 sets to 21 or something like that. And have it, instead of being a gambling match where they negotiate it all and renegotiate, what if there was some, it was a 2-man tournament where the pay-per-views and the things, and somehow it was more official. I had a referee, and it was like, I don't know, more of a deal. Yeah, we'd lose their ability to, maybe that would be a stopper for action. Maybe people don't get in the ring as easily if they can't make the rules the way they want to. But I don't know. It just seems like there ought to be a way to work it out where I guess my point is I don't know that a race to 100 is the best format these days for the fans or for the players. I think that it used to be. I think that's changed. And I think that it would be interesting to find a way to make it more of a tournament format to avoid situations like this. And then the only negative about that is, well, if it comes down to a scramble, then, do you really want to get your money in like that? And I guess I just don't sympathize with that as much because I feel like if you get your money in, it's your job to not let it come down to a scramble. Okay, those are my thoughts.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jim, sorry, buddy. Sounds like you're on an island by yourself, but you're used to being there, so I think you're okay.
But it's a good island. It's a good island.
It's a good island. Well,
Listen,
I'll say this, Jim.
Born and raised on an island.
I'd have very little issue with it if Shane hadn't broke. That's my main issue. But that's it for me.
Yep. Yeah. And we'll say it looks like you do have 4 people that agree with you. Although, unfortunately,
he's got 3 brothers and a sister.
Did you verify that those are different?
He's using all of his Facebook accounts.
Did you verify different IP addresses? Are those the same IPs?
Yeah, he's using all of his burner accounts. He had his mom and his wife and his daughter voting on him. Good for you, pal. Good for you.
Hey,
all right.
But look. Hey, Cheng looked terrible going into it. Let's just be real. Cheng was 70% of himself. Hadn't played in a year. Only really played Chinese 8-ball. So for all those guys who were like, "Oh, we knew Shane was stealing," Shane was in top form, playing anybody and everybody leading up to this match. So, and Cheng's up to go and put the money in again and flip the coin. So, and I'm looking
he wants to. He wants
to. Cheng did not, if you watched those last couple of tournaments, Cheng didn't look like Cheng. And
at all.
What's your thoughts on that? Just because he was playing the 8-ball?
Really injured as well.
Everybody did. Alex looked like that whenever he came back from the Philippines from COVID. Dennis looked like that when he came back from the Philippines. All these guys had COVID rust. I chalk it up to just that. But if you let them go and play pool for 6 months, not just 30 days, I like his chances personally.
I just got one more thing on this. I've never known this to happen before. I don't know if you guys have got this kind of experience before. Does this set a precedence for future big money matches? That they get close and both players say, you know what, let's just extend.
I'll say this, starting this off, Dennis and Sky fully well had this set up if they went hill when they did the race to 150 on the bar table. So
no, it wasn't for hill. It was if it tied up within, I think, 5 to 7 games of it ending, they had already talked to the backers where it was going to go and be extended. Now, it never came to it because, we all know what happened, but that was on the table and all the backers agreed to it. And that was a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. Hundreds of thousands. So I guess it's happened in the past. It's not like this is a one-off. That's the first time it's ever happened. But I think the chat room brings up some interesting points. And maybe this is the curse or the uniqueness of pool. This doesn't happen in any other sport, right? I mean, obviously there's more structure and you have actual series and series of tournaments, whether it's the NFL or the MLB. You can't just get to the 8th inning and say, all right, well, we're gonna come back tomorrow because we're tired in baseball, right? But the idea is even in like one-on-one sports like boxing that they're bringing up, you can't just do this in boxing. What's your guys' opinion on that? And we'll go quick. Mike Panozzo, what do you think? Do you think that this is a curse that pool has, or do you think it shows its unprofessionality?
It's not. This is gambling. I mean, with tournaments, you're not going to do this, obviously, so you can't compare it to a professional sport. If 2 golfers are out there gambling on a weekend in Palm Springs and the PGA's not there, their money men can sit there and change whatever rules they want to change, or make them ahead of time, or change the bet, or add stroke, whatever they want to do to keep the action going and increase their chances of winning more money or the money that's out there. So we can't compare this to anything that exists in professional sports because it's a gambling match. We just got to watch.
Okay. Demetrius?
Yeah, I agree completely. We're just watching along. I think the closest thing this is comparable to, it's not a sport. We have to compare it to like heads-up poker challenges where people renegotiate all the time how many hands they're going to play, or is it going to be online or live or both, or what the stakes are and all these different things. I've seen plenty of things that are renegotiated. And like you said, we're not – oh.
Sorry.
No problem. This is not a fan event. We just happen to be. It's like we're at the pool hall and we're watching this go down. Now that's why I really prefer as a player that watches pool to watch pool where there is a structure that's a third party structure, so that I know what's going to happen and that that I don't. There was a comment about getting tired as part of it, like Fast Eddie and the Hustler. I don't know. I don't think I want to see it. I mean, there's different ways to set it up. Do we want to see a contest of stamina? Do we want to see a contest of breaking? Do we want to see a contest of heart? But I'd like to see it set up by a third party so that we can, be an audience that has a participation and we're entitled to a certain outcome that we get to see. But that's not this. This one, unless it's set up by a third party, we're just watching it from the window.
All right, Melina, Mike.
What was the question?
Do you think that this has a kind of unprofessionalism to it that is unique to pool?
No, I mean it happened. Like had they said we'll come back in 2 weeks, then I would have been pissed like Jim, and then I would have kicked up dust. But no, I don't think so. It's gambling, man. Whatever they want to do, I'm good with it. I want to sweat it. So
okay, so Jim, you already think it is. So I'm going to skip over you, but I'm going to bring up an interesting topic now that I think that if anybody thinks that I'm wrong here, just cut me off and tell me. But I think that it's pretty uncontroversial to say that popularity in big sports is tied intimately to the ability to bet on it. Whether that means, going into your local sports book in Vegas and betting, like last night, the Eagles plus 3.5. Like the success of a lot of major sports is tied intimately to the ability to bet on it. So theoretically, if pool was bigger, it would be in sports books. Tennis is in sports books, golf, football, baseball, all of these things are in sports books. Now there's history as to why pool is also not in sports book that we won't get into probably, but the idea is at some point in time with the way that Matchroom and Predator is working at this industry, there is no reason why pool cannot be in sports book where you can make bets on certain tournaments, potentially gambling matches, who knows. Does this look bad to a sports book if they were, let's say, looking into the industry and saying, hey, this just happened. This is, two of the best players in the world. And how can we possibly make a line on this? Because we have to now void, if there's $1 million in bets, we have to void all 1 million of those because of the decision that they just made. Is that a bad look for the sports books that potentially might host some of these matches in the future? What's your guys' thoughts on that?
What a bad look for the sports books was making Judd Trump a 6-1 favorite at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, that was silly.
So, I mean, a sports book doesn't get this. Like, again, I keep pointing this out. This is a gambling match. This is two top golfers going off on their own on a weekend in some place and betting for money. It's not going to affect the PGA or the Masters.
Well, let me jump on that because there were absolutely lines when Tiger played Phil. There were lines on that you could bet on. So there's no reason why they couldn't theoretically be. Of course, I'm not an idiot, Alex. I realize that there's no money in pool, but the point is someday there might be. And at the point where someday there might be the opportunity to bet on these things in Vegas or anywhere where sports betting is legal. The idea is, while it's not available today, there might be someday in the future.
Yeah, at that point, to me, then it comes down to pool will have to present itself through some kind of body or some kind of form as having some controls in place that give the bookmakers some confidence that matches aren't going to be dumped, that there's not going to be, foul play, that type of thing. So, when Betfred or some, one of these gambling gets into a Matchroom event, they feel fairly confident because there's a track record working with Matchroom in terms of PDC, in terms of snooker, in terms of boxing, whatever it is. So
and to answer Bill's
are they just going to go?
quickly,
Are they going to go set up a line on?
Snooker is in the sports books. Sorry,
snooker's not in the sports books. Okay,
it is. It is. In the UK, it is. Yeah.
So you've got those controls in place. You've got some kind of body, in place to oversee that type of stuff. So, and the money's big enough in those sports where, players aren't likely to dump. They can make a living at it. You get a situation like pool where guys are playing for $5,000-$10,000 for first prize. There's might be some funny business every now and then. So that's going to be the biggest thing that's going to determine whether or not sportsbook take on something like pool.
It's credibility.
Mike?
Well, I mean, they do it for majors. You know, they do it for anything matchroom related, like Mike said. So, but I don't know. I mean, like they went and put a line on the Phil, whatever it was, that golfing match with Phil and
Phil and Tiger. Yeah, they did.
You know,
Absolutely, they did.
And that,
Yes,
yeah.
they did.
So I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to think about it more, to be honest with you. But
yeah, but they did have it on the Tiger and Phil matchup. They did. Because I bet a little on it. Yeah. Demetrius?
Yeah, I disagree with both things. First of all, I don't know that a sports book needs to be involved for it to be a successful endeavor. I mean, I mentioned poker. Maybe you can bet on some tournaments or something. I don't know. I've never seen it. Maybe I don't participate. But anyway, I think there's plenty of examples of things that get big without being bet on. Number one. Number two, here's what I really disagree with is this idea that we have to preemptively solve 100 things, and that's why pool is dead. It's because we're not professional enough, or we don't give back to the youth players, or we don't dress nicely enough, or because we don't have good enough sportsmanship, or we don't call foul on ourselves, or because we bet on matches in pool rooms, or whatever. Like, we're all just going to sit here and become perfect people and be these perfect ambassadors of the game, and then somehow a big successful tour is going to burst out of the head of Zeus. And the reason it hasn't happened is because we're not all like transcended people yet. I think it's ridiculous. The reality is, if a tour comes along that's going to be successful, it's going to grow and then fine tune, and then grow and then fine tune, and then as it grows, it'll perpetuate a culture like Matchroom's doing, where little by little it'll add stops, and little by little it'll grow and gain traction, and little by little it draws in more players, and little by little it will tell the players, as we need you to, hey, we need you to do this, or we need you to clean up, or here's how the culture is going to go now, and it's going to change organically. It's not like we have to sit there and preemptively become a certain way and that's somehow going to summon. If you build it, it will come. I don't think that makes any sense. And so in the end, I think that
big sport though, what's the big sport that's out there that you can't bet on? Like, tell me one. I mean, unless you want to be cornhole's little brother for the rest of your life.
I just mentioned poker.
Like, I just mentioned
poker. Do you bet on poker? I'm talking about
matches? Like the big sports. You can if you can go and bet on the final table of a World Series event because they're going to go and lay odds off of each player. Yeah, you absolutely can.
Fair enough. I don't know how all that works. All I know is that pools to me seems a lot closer to poker in that it's not a team sport and it's you go out and you play and you enter tournaments and each one you're a serious underdog, but you can make a deep run. I think pool and poker are more closely aligned, and maybe there's a couple events where you can bet on a final table, but I haven't seen. I mean, I think that's the exception, Mike. I don't think that's the standard. Is that poker's a book game? Is that the argument you're trying to make?
Well, no, but it's like you can go. I look at it more like a tennis or a golf. I look at closer into that kind of format when you talk about pool, personally. And
so then there's different ways
you can go and bet on. You can bet on per match, and you can bet on to go and outright win and get odds on the money before the tournament starts and throughout the event.
So that's fair. So you're bringing up points that there are places where you can, there are sports like golf and things, tennis, where you can bet on these matches. I'm just saying, I don't think it's exclusive. You said, can you mention an example? I don't think I don't think that's the only way that pool can grow is if it's gambled on. That's it. I think it's a good way. It might be a good way.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it's. Yeah, I'm not saying it's the only way. Yeah.
Okay.
One of my favorite things. I'm not a huge fan of like sitting down at a blackjack table or craps tables or anything like that. But I love when I'm in Vegas throwing $100 sweater down and just sweating some games in the sports book. Like that is so much fun to me. I love the idea of just being able to sweat matches. And if Emily Frazier, of course, there's some people that just kind of get they get precedent. She says the gambling matches only take place because there's not enough career earnings, which I guess I think we would all agree with. And of course, she's going to be working with a lot of these gambling companies. They will not touch pool right now due to unprofessionalism. Pool is unknown to the masses. That's the problem and must be corrected. More professional pool on television is what is required. So I mean, she's going to be talking with a lot of these sports books. She has the in on that. And I think we all would agree with that. I think there's a lot of things that need to be corrected.
She hits the nail on the head, man.
Yeah,
for sure. If they made more money, then they going and playing for $50,000 is nothing. If they're making great money.
Yeah, Judd Trump makes probably close to $1 million a year, if not even more. You don't see him matching up against Ronnie on the weekends to try to make some extra money.
Get Carlo at 33-1 and see how much you tune into the U.S. Open. All right.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Or Aloysius, right? Doesn't anybody? Yeah, right. All right. So we still haven't even talked about the match itself yet. So I guess Demetrius, you're up on big screen. Why don't you take it away? Are you surprised with it? What are your takeaways?
I'm sorry. I'm surprised with the U.S. Open or with Matchroom.
No,
I'm sorry.
With Shane and Cheng, 155 to 139. Shane wins.
Yeah, I would say I didn't know that Cheng has had a bit of a layoff. I'm glad I didn't bet. I think I would have bet Cheng. I feel that it's such a close match. I mean, let's be clear. I'm not saying Cheng's a heavy favorite. I'm saying it's such a close match that looking at it, it's just hard to pick. But I would say that what has allowed Shane to win as decisively as he did years ago was his breaking edge. And just, the gear he could hit that other people couldn't hit. And I feel that Cheng has demonstrated that he's kind of closed the gap on the gear he can hit and the way he can break. And I think that if they were to play again, I think I'm going to bet Cheng just because I think Cheng game manages well. I think he's real steady. I think he's very steady and anyway, so I think I'd bet again just because I don't know where Shane's edge comes from. If Shane has an edge, I think it might just be rhythm and momentum, which as it turns into a stamina battle, maybe that's why Shane ended up coming away with it, is because that.
Mike?
Good point.
Molina Mike, we'll say.
No, he made a great point there at the end, for sure. No, Cheng outbroke him. Cheng was only 70%, I think, of what he's capable of being at if he's in playing pool for 6 months straight. I look forward to the rematch. I mean, Shane was the winner, and Shane played fantastic. And I don't want to go and take anything away from it. He outworked them, and he showed just so much heart, man. That was insane to be 5 games away like Cheng was, and for Shane to battle back the way he did really just shows the kind of competitor that he really is and the amount of quit that he doesn't have in him. So it was a fantastic match. I look forward to the rematch, and I'd gladly go and take Cheng again. I would.
Yep. Panozzo? Oh, I think you muted yourself.
I sure did.
Rookie move.
Yeah. You don't want to hear me clear my throat all day. No, I mean, agree with Mike. I mean, Shane showed so much heart coming back like he did. He was down pretty much the whole time, it seemed like. And, he even wrote that he learned a little bit about himself as far as never quitting and never giving up. So, and Cheng looked like he's been a little bit off lately. But yeah, 2 warriors, they could do this twice a year. Wouldn't be too many games that would separate them in the end.
All right. Jim, what you think?
Yeah, I mean, we knew it was going to be, well, I thought it would be a tight match. I had Shane as favorite, based on what I'd seen from Cheng at the previous tournaments before and what I'd heard from other players. That he was like we said, he was off. He looked very, very tired. You can think maybe in the first tournament there may be a little bit of jet lag or whatever, but if it's continuing into week 2 and 3, then he's going to struggle to hang with Shane in a big race to 120. But what he did show, like Demetrius said, Shane's break isn't the massive advantage that it was against a lot of players now. They know that that's what they need. All the top players know that that's what they need to work on. The break is so massive that they all need to have one, So that advantage that I think we've seen that not just in the long match with Cheng, but we've seen it at the US Open and in previous tournaments over the last year, maybe the tournaments that we've got to see. That the break isn't the massive advantage that Shane has had for over a lot of players for a number of years, and that's makes it. Yeah, I thought he showed a lot of heart as well. It's a pride thing for Shane now as well. He did mention it. Somebody posted something about his next match or something. He says, "Well, now that I've beaten Cheng, who do I play next?" That's how much.
Did you see that? Did you see Eklund put on there? Hey, let's slow down, buddy.
Yeah, but with all due respect to Kachi, as much of a fantastic player he is, he's not there yet. He's not that big name that a Cheng is. That to Shane, I don't think in any case. When Shane looks around, guys,
he is.
He might think he is, but I'm talking about from Shane inside when he thinks, "What do I need to prove to myself?" I don't think Kachi is somebody he thinks he needs to. I think there's very few players that Shane himself thinks this for me would be an achievement. You know, Cheng is one of them. Dennis is one of them. I believe Filler is one of them. Whether that would ever happen. Wuja Cheng is one of them. But I don't think there's really that many players that Shane feels he has to get in the ring with to prove anything, you know?
Yep. I haven't seen him beat you yet, Jim.
I haven't seen that either.
He's got to get through you.
Well, we're getting back onto this shit the bed topic again, aren't we? He could have played. He had the opportunity. He was invited to our VG10 tournaments, but he declined.
I think it was because of you. I've never seen him and you in the same room at the same time. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Well, now we're just getting silly. All right, let's move on from that topic, and we're going to talk about the U.S. Open now. And I'm not sure if Emily is still in the room, but I will say this: Matchroom, I'm sure, was just hemorrhaging money all through COVID. There's no way that when you lose. I don't know what their book breakdown is. I'm sure that, they make a significant amount of money from ticketing when it comes to their events. And they had to cancel the World Pool Masters and the World Cup of Pool and the World 9-Ball Championships. And a lot of those are huge money-making events just off of the ticketing. And then they had to do the Mosconi Cup with no fans in the stands. If you look at the average cost of a ticket, let's just say it's $100. It's not, it's more than that, but let's just say that. And they got $2,500 or 2,500 seats in there. They're looking at $250,000 that they just lost out on and still ran the event. Good and darn well that they are hemorrhaging money throughout COVID. The fact that they come back stronger than ever and put on an event like this at the US Open, I know that there's a lot of Matchroom lovers out there. I know there's a lot of Matchroom haters out there. What you cannot question anymore is their commitment to this game and their commitment to grow the game. And I just wanted to start out right there because I was at this event the entire time. And I'm telling you what, it is absolutely, it is breathtaking, the type of room and the atmosphere that they built. The players might not always agree because it's no longer the tournament that they knew 20 years ago. It's more of a TV show now than it is, an actual tournament for the players. But with a TV show, if they continue having the success that they are, you're going to see these prize purses go up and up and up. And we're going to talk about it later. They're announcing more events to even go with the lineup that they already have. So before we even get into the topic of the U.S. Open, I wanted to say that because being there, it was absolutely incredible to see what they built and how they made that tournament run. So I guess let's talk about the tournament itself now. Anybody want to just step up and take away their thoughts of it? Demetrius, why don't you go? Because you actually played in it. Why don't you go?
I actually, I was just happy to be there. I had a podcast I did with Josh where I kind of talked a little bit about my experience. Some things that were new for me. I hadn't played with a shot clock before for 30 seconds. But no, as far as the event itself, it's changed. It's not the same as it was years ago. But it didn't change for, you could say, well, it didn't change for 30 years. Or you could say, it didn't change for 30 years. Like maybe we're due, and if we're going to get bigger and grow and add events by the same company, I think that's great. So it was very exciting. I enjoyed watching the semifinals and the finals. It was a lot of fun to be part of. I mean, what a great tournament. I'll tell you what, I'm glad that they continued the US Open when Barry, is not around anymore. It couldn't have played out any better than it did.
All right. Mike, what do you think?
That's Panozzo. No, it was.
God, you got better looking there for a minute.
No, it was top shelf. I'm unfortunately I didn't get to go make it out there, but just from the fans' perspective, sitting at home, I loved it. I love the coverage of it. I love how they were giving updates throughout it. That touch I really enjoyed. I wish there would have been more matches available to go and watch. More tables being streamed. That would be my only knock on it. Maybe from a few of the players I've heard, maybe it's paying out too deep. So maybe that's something they can go and possibly adjust so that way it's worth it for the guys who are making it deeper. But all in all, the storylines, the ending, the players who went deep in it, it was phenomenal. I really liked it, and I'm really annoyed I didn't get to go out there like I wanted to. But they did a fantastic job. Fantastic job.
All right, Panozzo, we'll get your input.
Yeah, you know, Demetrius was saying, well, it's not the U.S. Open of the last 30 years. Well, thank God. I mean, you know, and nothing against Barry's U.S. Open, but this is a whole different zip code that they're in now as far as the presentation and development of it. So how could you not love it? You know, what Matchroom does to step up the those events and make them more attractive and draw more attention to them. Man, that's what you want to see. It gets you excited. It gets the buzz going. So I thought they did a great job. I thought the television arena was cool. The table 2 thing was great. I for the life of me couldn't figure out why they couldn't get a score up on the table 2 screen. I never knew what the hell the score was without going back to the score tracker. So, but that's you know, little bits and pieces that I'm sure that they look at whenever an event's done, and they kind of do a post-mortem. So nothing that, you know,
just a guess there. I have to assume that they don't want to make it. They still want to drive coverage to DAZN, right? So if they make stream 2 too good, maybe people will have no reason.
I'm not
to
talking
get to the
about
zone one,
they didn't have announcers on it, and that's fine. But you know, the score. I want to know is I flip over to table 2 for a second.
That's just my guess.
Winning. All I see is someone at the table. But anyways, I thought it was a great event. Prize money, that's always an issue, depending on who you talk to, whether you're talking to the guy who finished 65th or the guy who finished 15th. But yeah, maybe they could, you know, bring a little more money closer to the top, and because it's an expensive week for those guys, for everybody out there. So if you played well enough to get in the top 32, let's reward them a little bit more. That guy who's 96 and back, he's still going to come next year anyways, whether you give him his $100 back or not. So no, I you know, top shelf event. A lot of great matches. Liked everything about it, except probably the change to the rack like they did at the World Championship. I don't understand why you change. You know, it's like, to me, it's like playing Wimbledon until the semifinals, and then you're going to play on clay. I mean, I just don't get it. And so, and that's nitpicky too. I mean, they can figure it out, they can work it out, but I just don't understand it.
Hopefully,
if you want to bring on bookmakers, though, there has to be consistency if you want to have guys go and handicap an event like that, because it's a completely different format when you have guys going and racking with the triangle versus a template. It's a whole other ball game. So from a gambling side of it, and from the bookmakers, it's like they're still doing it based off of the template, and you can't do it.
Yeah, Jim, what do you think? You are like Europe's resident hater for about the first 2 days, and then you just love everything that ever happened in the entire world the last 4 days of any event. So what do you think?
It's not. It's just, you know, I watch it. It's a ritual. I sit there and I watch every single minute. You know, I've got even if I'm not in front of the TV has got it on, and I've got it on full blast so I can hear what's going on. I watched every single minute of the whole thing. And of course, in the first couple of days, you start to see things, you notice things. One thing Matchroom always does is every single event, they make just little changes and learn from the previous event. And we saw that again in this event, little changes that made it better. Again, like we said, the racking, okay, I don't agree with it either. I think it's bad. Why not just use the template the whole time? Why not just tap the tables? Why not? I mean, this again these are I'm hoping are short-term problems. Nate talked about the financial aspect of it in the beginning when we started about this. What it shows to me is that Matchroom are in it for the long term, and they're not looking to make a quick profit. They're investing massively in order to get something out there that eventually is going to be something big. Once it becomes something big, then you can have more referees. You know, you can have more people involved in this in the tournament. Then all these things end up getting sorted out anyway. So I'm sure this is something that's kind of a temporary thing at the moment. A few small things like Mike mentioned. I would have liked to see a scoreboard, but I just had my telephone beside me with the Q Score app on, so I could see the score all the time anyway. So there were ways around it. I thought on day one, it didn't take much of a genius in the first couple of days to see that these matches would not last very long. So the scheduling of the table 1 and the table 2 matches, they figured it out, I think, on day 2. They added a couple of extra matches. We got to see the Errol match. We got to see the Dennis match. But you know that if you've got a schedule or a televised schedule of 5 hours, and you've got 3 matches that are, you know, heavyweight against mouse kind of thing, you know that these matches are going to be pretty quick fire and they're going to be done. You could already be knowing and announcing that there's going to be 4 matches. I thought the whole Judd Trump buzz for it was great. They handled it well. There was a point where I was worried that it would get to a point where it would just become a little bit the Judd Trump show, which is not such a bad thing in one way, but we do also, and I mentioned it on a post, you know, we do have our own superstars as well. And they've earned their stripes, and they've earned the right to also get a little bit of attention, because, you know, you don't know if Judd's going to be there every year. What do they have to do? They have to get another snooker player to come over next time, you know. It did what it was meant to do. It was nice that he got to play a few matches. It was also nice that he got his arse handed to him at one stage by a proper pool player, just for the credibility of the sport. I mean, I was never really in doubt that eventually he would come up against somebody who would take him apart, kind of thing. But you know, if he keeps playing, who knows? Maybe he gets to a level where he can compete with these top guys. But he's not there yet, and none of the snooker players are, regardless of what anyone says.
And I think we should all take a
match, and it's another step in the right direction. A fantastic tournament. It was great to watch. Yes, there's always little things that can be improved on, but they've shown every tournament. They've shown that they're doing these little improvements. So, what? Yeah.
I think we all need to take a proper moment of silence. Let's take 5 minutes for the lost opportunity that we had. If Judd Trump won his last match, he would have played against Naoki Oi. And you cannot tell me that would not have been the greatest thing that ever happened to the sport. I think we need to have a moment of silence.
I wanted to see Naoki against Earl.
Can you imagine Earl against Judd?
I do have a question to ask, and that's someone brought it up here on this thing. What's the definition of a forceful break? And I love the final, and I got nothing against Carlo Beato. He's a great player, probably the most underrated world champion ever. But boy, if what he was doing the second half of that match was a forceful break, then I don't know what a forceful break is. But and that's such an impossible thing to control. I understand that. But did anybody else notice that the second half of that match
I'll tell you what.
That was pretty much a buttercup break.
Coming into this, I was really put off by the break rules. I feel that over the last 20 years, there's been 3 things that have done to stop, you know, what Corey Deuel did to Mika Immonen in 2001, where he just won 11-0, like barely breaking the balls. But the 3 things that have happened is we've gone to 3-point rule, we've gone to, you know, break from the box, and we've gone to I already said 3-point rule, 9 on the spot. 9 on the spot, 3-point rule, break from the box, some combination of those 3 things. When they went to 1 on the spot with a template rack, which we didn't even have in 2001. So now we're using a 1 on the spot with no 3-point rule, break from the side rail, which is the easiest rules we've ever seen, and a template rack, which is actually making it easier than it was 20 years ago. So we've undone all the stops against the wing ball going in and actually made it even easier than it was when Corey Deuel won 11-0. I was blown away. I didn't get it. It didn't make sense to me. But what I would say, I think the only thing, I don't know, but one of the big reasons why I think it went that way, it seemed to me that Matchroom wanted to speed through the first 200 players or 250 players and just play it down to the 16 real quick. And then they can zoom in and feature these matches in a little bit more depth with a little bit more razzle dazzle. That's the way it felt in terms of, I think that the whole point of the 30-second shot clock and the 1 on the spot with the template was, let's get these matches. Let's make sure we're ahead of schedule. Let's get these matches out of the way. We'll feature Judd Trump and we'll build up some stuff. And then once we get it played down to where the final 16, now we can slow down, feature more of the matches, zoom in a little bit more, go to the triangle rack and have a little bit more play. I think that was their overall strategy, and I might be wrong. And originally I was a little upset by that because I'm like, man, I don't want to see, and I don't like the forceful break rule because it penalizes the people that follow the rules because it's so vague. But in the end, I'm going to sit way back and change my mind on this and say, I get that they're trying to grow the game. And so if this is what fans want to watch. Whatever they determine that's going to make good TV and bring people into the game. CSI is doing it, races to 4 with a shootout. Whether we do, Dick's wing ball on the break, I don't care. It's like whatever's going to build the audience for pool is going to be good for the game, and we can all adjust.
Well,
I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure that the match we're really trying to speed the matches.
Well, you got to look at the Emily Frazier thread. Emily's
out there in the comments. Emily, I sent you an invite via Facebook if you would like to Facebook Messenger if you'd like to jump in. Emily wants trouble now. Demetrius is in trouble.
I'm glad she's jumping in because I want to ask her about the women's Mosconi Cup.
Yeah, that could be fun. Well, hopefully she'll jump in here quick. But I think I guess we'll give her a couple seconds to get in here. But I think that I don't think that anybody's at the end of the day. I think Matchroom is doing the correct things. And there was something earlier on that I wanted to address as well because Emily can confirm or deny this in a couple of seconds. But I think that the reason they don't have the hand rack the entire event is because they do not have the referees to do so. So in that case, they're going to need, there was 33 tables for the US Open. They're going to have at least 33 refs on at all times, which means they probably have to have maybe 40 referees so that you can kind of cycle through and stuff like that. You can't just have 33. Maybe you could have one ref in charge of 3 tables or something like that, but then you kind of get bottlenecked sometimes. You really got to have at least like 35 to 38 refs, and that gets expensive. I mean, the budget for that gets pretty crazy. You don't pay a ref, $5 to show up and do these things. You're paying them quite a bit. So, hopefully as the event grows, you're going to end up getting to the point where you're able to, have the budget to have 33 refs that can do all of this stuff along the way. So I guess she says she wants 5 minutes. Well, that's okay. We can talk about we haven't talked about the actual results yet. So. Yeah, she's getting revved up and ready to go. So I guess let's talk about it. We've already hinted at this. Carlo Beato is your champion, and it's just kind of crazy to think that Carlo Beato was able to beat Aloysius the way he was playing in this event. I saw a stat from Mike Page from Fargo Rate that said Aloysius going into the final was playing at an 871 Fargo rating, which is absolutely incredible. And the only thing that's more incredible is since the Diamond Las Vegas, he's sustained an 851, I think is what I saw. So this guy is playing like 30 points higher than the next best player in the world almost. That's how good Aloysius is playing right now. And of course he won in Michigan. So that's, he's continuing it on. So Aloysius Yap gets second place. Third place is a tie between Dennis Arcoyo and Nayuki Oi. 5th through 8th is Max Leschner, Fedor Gorst, Johan Chua, and Rodrigo Geronimo. And then 9 through 16 in the final 16 was Mario He, Dennis Graba, Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, Shane Van Boning, Marco Tauscher, and David Alcaide Bermudez, John Mora, and Mieszko Fortunski. I guess while we're waiting here, Jim, what do you think? Do you like the final 16? Are you surprised by anybody in there?
You're always going to get in a field like that, and like you said, when you kind of negate the break. With the break being such a big part of the game, when you pretty much negate that by playing with the magic rack, like Demetrius said, whether or not you agree with it or not, it brings a lot more players into the possibility of winning matches and getting deep into the tournament. You increase the field of possible winners when you do that, in my opinion. And you saw that with certain players getting through. There's players in there that you would not many people would have called him as Geronimo as a final 8. Not many players. Lechner, as well as he's been playing, you wouldn't put him in there as a final 8. You'd say, he'd be doing well to get to the last 16. There's players that didn't make it that you would expect to have been there. Kachi and Jason and stuff like that. So it just opens up the field, and these guys are so close together with each other, and it's just small margins in these matches now that's going to decide whether somebody goes through. And you saw some big swings in the matches with the winner break format. To say that there was surprises there, yes, perhaps, but no, not really, because on their day they're all good enough to beat each other at that format.
Yep. Melina, Mike, what do you think?
You don't think Max Lechner's been playing that good to go and it's surprising to be in a final 8? Is that what you're saying?
No, I said no. That's why he wouldn't be one of the first names that you would pick as your top 8.
he was in the final of the International Open, one of the biggest 9-ball events leading up to it. I mean, he's been playing
years
some
ago.
fantastic pool. But
Yeah, okay, but if you
a year ago, yeah.
But if
He's
somebody
been playing
says
more consistently
talk-
than Jason has. I mean,
my
talk more about
point
my-
is, if somebody said before the event, give me 8 players that you think will win it, would Lechner be in your list?
well, no, because he's not one of the Vogue names. But
Well, that's what I meant.
You're,
That was my point.
yeah, but I mean, having a Vogue name is different than how consistently someone's playing. Like you're arguing 2 different points, though, Jim. I don't know, man. I think for as many hearts as Yap broke going into the tournament or throughout the tournament, because he broke a lot of hearts. He took down Filler, took down Shane. He stole a lot of hearts, man. He was the man of the hour.
Well, he's been the man of the whole tour, really. He's been the man of the entire 3-4 weeks, month, because he take a first, a second, and a third. He's an incredible run.
Yeah, but I mean, Matchroom showcased it differently. I don't know. I mean,
first, second,
I was
third,
there in
and
Vegas
third. I think he took third in the Diamond Las Vegas Open as well. And he took third.
Just with his. Go ahead.
He's the hottest property at the moment in pool. He is
absolutely.
He's the guy that's put his name down now as being the top guy, you know, or one of the top guys. If he can hold that kind of form consistently over a period of time, wow, the things that guy can achieve is incredible.
Yeah.
No, but I think it was more in that Shane match and the drama that happened there and the sportsmanship that came through and that post-match interview. He won a lot of fans, and I can't under stress that enough. Like across the globe, all I kept on hearing the entire week was yap this and yap that, and all over social media about how well he's playing, but more importantly, what kind of person he is and what kind of competitor that he is. So that's one thing. What Panozzo said is right, though. Carlo may be the most underrated world champion of all time. That guy gets kind of lost in the mix of it all because you got so many talented Filipino players. But it was great to see Dennis, number 1, back in a Matchroom arena, and 2, go deep in a Matchroom event. So that was fantastic to go and watch. Shane's momentum throughout it, and of course we were all rooting for him to go and get 6. I don't know. It was just the entire event really just showcased players in a phenomenal way. Although at times I think it did get kind of tiring to go and have the same guys, the SVB show and the Judd Trump show and all that. But they did do a good job. Like I think it was day 3 or so, they started mixing more people in there. So I can appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, Oi's been playing great too, man. I mean, he was in the final of the World 10 ball and then goes deep in the US Open. So, I mean, he's not just made for TV interviews because the guy has game. I mean, there was just so many things that brought in fans from across the globe. And that was one thing that I was hoping would go and happen. And it did, because you showcased the world's best players, I think.
Yeah, I wanted to mention one thing that I don't think it was on the stream table. In fact, I know it wasn't. Lechner got eliminated by Dennis right before Dennis got beat out. And that match did not have to go that way. Dennis and Lechner was a very tight match. I think Dennis was up by 1 game deep into the set, missed a 6-ball, and it went 2 rails and slopped the 9 to the side. And I think that was a pretty big. That was Did you see that one, Nate?
Girls.
Yeah. Anyway, it was a pretty big roll. And I'm not saying that Dennis wouldn't have won that set. I'm just saying it was real late in the set. It was close. It was a 6-ball. That was kind of big. So anyway, I just want to shout out to Lechner. Of course, I'm really blown away by how well he's been performing. So yeah, a lot of really good talent.
I'd like to talk about
Panozzo?
I'd like to talk about Lechner too when we get on to the Mosconi Cup team picks.
Me too.
That was going to be my next thing. Before people think I'm bashing on Max Lechner, no, I'm actually kind of in support of the whole Max Lechner thing. But one thing I want to say about the US Open, and this was the same kind of thing that happened with World Championships. It's letting us see new players and new names, you know. And we had it with Oliver Schnigoki or Sholniki. Yeah, Oliver Sholniki in the World Championship. And now we're getting to see Aloysius Yap coming through. It's great that we're getting to see these new names and that they're able to make a name for themselves. And it's just, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. All
right, everybody step aside.
All right, Emily.
Everybody
step aside.
Sure. Hold on a minute. I feel like I'm in the principal's office again.
Yeah, I know.
By the way, I wasn't doling myself up. I was driving from work and I couldn't join whilst I was driving. And I was
That's
literally
fine.
5 minutes away. I was getting very frustrated. And I couldn't text whilst driving.
Yeah. How's your
Tell us how you
how's
feel.
your
Tell us
time
how
to
you feel.
breathe? Yeah.
Tell Demetrius how you feel.
Right, you're limited to 5 questions, so then I can cook my dinner, so I don't have another late night.
Well, why
talking
don't you
about
just go
pork.
ahead and comment on what you saw, what you heard us saying?
What was I saying? It's the racking thing. I can understand that everyone gets frustrated about switching from template to the hand racking. Obviously, all of our events, we would never openly want to do a template rack at our matchroom events, but we're at the stage when we've stepped into the open events, into the bigger multi-tables, that we cannot do hand racking at every table. We need a qualified and an experienced referee to do that, and not just any old referee that is a referee. We need to have, a matchroom vetted referee, so we know that they are, the best racks that they are giving out. They're not one-sided towards an American player or to a non-American player, which is something that we've really noticed. I noticed that at the US Open, the recent US Open. Some referees, some score controllers, and it's great that they're there, but at the end of the day, they're getting paid for a job. But some of them are fanboys of certain games, and I actually witnessed one score controller favour an American player over the opponent. So we have to be extremely careful about who we bring in. So yes, at the moment, and I think Jim said it, temporarily, we do go from template racking. And when we do get to a position in the tournament where we can comfortably have our referee's hand rack, we will do that. And even when we had meetings to avoid what happened at the World Championship, where obviously we couldn't even hand rack the balls because the dents had been made from the template racking, we were discussing about reclothing. But also when we get to the later stage of the tournament, as soon as you recloth, it makes it a bit easier as well, which we didn't want to do that at a later stage of the event. So we worked with Diamond, the referees, and us on site, and said, how do we make this, as best as possible? And even Chad Charlo turned around and said, Emily, why are you going to a hand rack? But I just cannot, for the life of me, do a final 16 and use a template racking when we've got all of these international broadcasters and we're trying to ramp up the level of professionalism. And I understand the consistency side of it, but we have to be using the hand racking. That's the way forward. So yes, when we get to a point, there's a referee at every table. That's the ideal scenario. But right now, we can't do that. We don't have the proper staff to do that. And if we execute it, we should do it to a high standard.
That's understandable. Let me ask you a real quick question. I hope this doesn't count against the 5. But so if you're using a template, what was the decision to do the 1 on the spot instead of the 9?
We actually did a, not everyone knows about it, I'm not sure, but at the World Pool Masters, well, before that, we moved to 9. We moved from 9 to 1, and that was quite early on when I came into matchroom pool. So to be totally honest with you, the early on stages, I'm not sure why it got switched around. I do know that from here on in the last 18 months, couple of years, we want to be consistent across our events. That's why we changed the US Open to a 30-second shot clock instead of 40. It doesn't make sense that one event is 40 and all of our others are 30, for instance. So we do want consistency. But we actually did an anonymous player vote at our recent World Pool Masters event. Got all the players in a room, asked them how much money they earn. And by the way, we did this anonymously because we know that there's bigger characters than others. There might be someone like a Fatunsky who may not speak up as much as a Jason Shaw, for instance. So everyone wrote down what they prefer. 1 on the spot, 9 on the spot, like a good player liaison officer to a match room, how many career earnings they have in a year. And there was one other that I can't for the life of me think. And it made us think, okay, we should stick with the 1 on the spot. So I'm open to
that's
listening.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Was it size of the pockets? Maybe you asked them.
Yes, yeah, pocket size.
Nate.
I would have
Teacher's pet. Jesus,
I would have
it's
no
brutal.
reason to know that besides guessing.
Where
No,
do you,
And what about
where do your referees come from? Do you train them yourselves, or do they have to go through a specific training course in order for to be selected for matchroom events?
We obviously, I mean, I'm not qualified to train a referee myself. You know, we're not blessed like the snooker where they have the WPBSA who actually run training for referees. So what we tend to do is take referees from the snooker industry because they already have that level of professionalism, and we're also within TV. But we should have a mixture of some referees who are more experienced in some areas than others. So, you know, they have to be a team player. You know, Rob Spencer, who's recently been working with us, who's one of the referees on the snooker, he's not qualified to be a pool referee, but he's a very good tournament director. He's there first thing in the morning and as soon as we leave, as well as the matchroom team. So there's so many different elements to be doing things like that, and we're just learning as we go. I mean, Marcel learns things from John learns things from Marcel, and vice versa. So I think that the UK Open is going to be really fantastic for the referees in the UK and at the matchroom events, because I think it's going to open up a door of opportunity for lots of refs. But we obviously, they're controlling the game out there for us, and we have to be so careful about, you know, who we have on board, and they have to be a matchroom team player.
well, the perfect thing that you brought up, because one of the 5 questions is going to be about the work that Matchroom is doing outside of the 6 announced events that you already have, which is the UK Open. So would you like to talk a little bit about that and how that came about, and any maybe tidbits you're looking to do for that event?
I think a lot of our recent acquisition of the championship, and now starting the UK Open. I mean, it's great that Barry took more of a step back into this presidential role, because it means that he's now bouncing all these ideas back and forth with me on the pool. And, you know, everyone knows that like the Reyes Cup has been floating around for ages. And, you know, it's do a Mosconi Cup version with Asia and Europe or USA. And the thought process is that right now, Paul doesn't need us to be investing money into another Mosconi Cup. That's not what Paul needs right now. Paul needs more open events. We need to see what Paul is like here in the UK. I mean, 8 ball is much bigger here in the UK than it is 9 ball. So we need to start a 9 ball event here and actually see what we get. I mean, yeah, I know everyone was kind of loved/hated Judd coming over for the US Open, but our viewing figures tripled when he was on the TV. And yet, I agree there should be a balance, as, you know, his match after Jason was on table 2, and rightly so. But the best thing, I remember sending a text message to Barry, the best thing was him being whitewashed by Jason Shaw, because it just showed that you can't just transition to pool just like that. You have to practice at it. It's a tough game. And I think it really showed how, how talented you have to be a pool player. And also Judge showed a level of respect for the players and for the tournament. That was what we needed. And so I'm really pleased that happened. But the recent open events, and that's what our aim is at the moment. It's open events. Our goal is rankings, increasing participation, expanding 9 ball across the world relies on open events. So that's what we're trying to channel at the moment. And the UK Open is just the first one.
Mike Panozzo, I know, had a question for you. And he muted himself. Rookie move again.
I did not have a question. Did I? I don't think.
You had the women's Mosconi Cup, right?
Oh. Is there going to be a women's Mosconi Cup?
No.
Oh.
No.
Oh, it's not happening.
What about all those women who showed up at the U.S. Open on the
No. I never said there'll be a women's Mosconi, but there will be. Details will be announced on it, but I'm not giving it away here.
Okay.
There will be something leading up to the Mosconi Cup, which will feature the ladies who participated in the US Open. And the reason why we did that as well is I think that look, if you want to come along and be part of the Mosconi Cup and have an opportunity to be branded under the Mosconi Cup, then you need to show that you are with the big dogs and you're putting up your $750 to play in the open events. So you don't just get an invite because you're a name and you get an invite. You come to these events because you're committed to the game. And so there will be something ahead of the Mosconi, but full details will be announced soon.
And will there be fans in attendance? Is that are you?
Depends. I'd like to open it to fans, but it depends on venue and logistics.
Also, it's not going to be connected to Mosconi and in the Ali Pali along beforehand. No, it's going to be somewhere else.
But potentially, haven't decided yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Melina, Mikey, what you got? Anything?
Well, one thing I want to respond real quick. Pool may not need the Reyes Cup, but the fans need the Reyes Cup. So I'll start with there. Listen, I think you guys did a phenomenal job, but I'm curious, what's the biggest area of improvement for you and your team for the US Open? Like, what would you go and work on?
I think we need to work on understanding the game a lot more on the overall tournament perspective. We've always been too interested in TV table and the top 16 players. And I think one thing that we overlook are the outer tables, the lesser ranked players, and how we promote those other matches that are going on. This year, not days 1 and 2, but definitely day 3, I spent a lot more time sitting and watching the outer tables, what the score controllers were doing, what the players were doing, how it was different to the TV table. I hate the fact that I walk around the arena and I don't know what the bloody score is. So you're not the only people that think that. It's just everything is down to cost. Yeah. In an ideal world, I remember the first US Open I ever looked at. When we first did it, I wanted a big monitor at every table showing what the score is, because, if you're sitting there, you're walking around, you want to see where all the scores are. So temporarily, whilst we focus on spending money in other areas, we drive everyone to our score site. So, but our biggest improvement we need to work on is how to run a multi-table event, because I don't think that we've actually nailed that nowhere near as what we should have. It needs to be a lot more organized. It needs to be a lot more professional, and we need to be educating the players more as well as our officials. So I think actually the understanding overall of a multi-table event is our weakness, and that's what we need to work on.
What do you mean when you say educate the players? In what manner do you mean educate the players?
I think just our players meeting was really unprofessional from the majority of the players. So I think there needs to be an educational side on that. I saw a player literally turn up in jeans and this weird shirt and a cap. I mean, that's fine if you're going down the pool hall, but this is the US Open promoted by Matchroom and it's on TV across the world. It doesn't look right. And so I just think there needs to be more education on that side of things. There was a few things that, at the players meeting, one player, put his hand up and asked a genuine question and got laughed at by the other players. So I think we just need to really step up our game, and the only way that we can educate the players is, by helping them, and that's all we're going to really try and do. But we've still got a lot of work to do, but we're committed. We want to expand the game, but like I said earlier, everything we do is for a reason. I understand we make mistakes. We definitely do, because we can't think of everything, but we learn. And anything that we make a mistake on, we change for the next event.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots still to be done.
Yeah, no one will ever question your commitment.
No.
Emily, I'm sorry. I have a question, and I just wanted to say thanks for running the event. I can sit here and nitpick break rule preferences, but every player has different feelings about that. In the event, in the end, I want the event to grow, and you've been the only guys that are doing it over there at Matchroom. I guess my question is just, was it a success when it came to obviously you put a lot of work and a lot of money into putting this event together, taking it on, growing it. What were the ratings and how did it, I don't need to know the numbers. They don't mean anything to me, but just, was it a success for Matchroom? Did it do what it needed to do to keep this going forward?
It did. We rated really well in the US and really good in Germany as well. We peaked at like 1 million in the UK. I won't lie, when Judd did play, but also one thing we did notice, the big spike was when Judd played and when Kelly and Christina played a match. That also spiked, which it gives us a little nudge into maybe what we're not doing with the ladies in the sport. So it was a success. It cost a lot of money and it's nowhere near profitable, but we see potential with the event. We're just putting together all of our evaluation reports for the event, and I'd be more than happy to share it with you, Mike, so we can actually publish it in, Billiards Digest and just show people how. I would love to show people how these events are rating to what they were 3 years ago.
Yeah, of course.
So I will definitely make a note of that because it is a success. More people are tuning in. I know things like with the forceful break, and it's a very grey area, and it really is. But the thing is that the 3-point rule, it's confusing. And if a casual viewer tunes in, it is confusing. And I can't take a step back in this sport when we've just, we're trying to pull in the casual fan. We're trying to make it fun and interesting. And it is snooker meets darts. So we have to stick to our guns and remove things like the 3-point rule.
Agreed.
And maybe find other ways. But we're just trying to test the water and see how we can. We just hope that we get to a stage where we do professionalize the game and not everyone are trying to shaft people on the break by not breaking powerful enough. But I think in 3 years' time, we won't even have the conversation about forceful break at the US Open. I'll make that bet now because we'll be in a total different stage. So we just need to keep doing what we're trying to do and stick to our guns on something like that. But it was a success for the potential of the event.
I think that's a perfect way to kind of wrap this up. I know you said you wanted to get out of here pretty quickly.
Can I ask one more question? Can I ask one more question?
No, Jim, because I'm going to ask one more question and get her out of here on this one.
Mine's better than yours.
My show. Haha. Okay, so I guess with all these discussions and all the things that Matchroom is doing, to get us out here, kind of off of what you just said there, tell us what Matchroom is excited about. What are the things that you guys are having growth areas in, things that you guys are doing, announcing, whatever it is? What are you excited about that keeps you continuing to grow the sport like you are?
A tour.
A
That's
tour.
what I'm excited about.
Me
Wow.
too.
I think that's some pretty big news. And you're showing it.
I'll leave you there. No.
That's good enough. That's good enough. All right, Emily, we will let you bounce out. Thank you very much for jumping in and keeping us straight and informing everybody on the Matchroom's intentions and policies, we'll say.
It's a really good show, by the way, and I'm really glad I tuned in for my drive home. So
appreciate it. Thank you.
It's great work. All right.
Thanks, Ian.
See you later.
Take it easy.
Cheers.
All right, we're losing the only two people that this
Bon
show
appetit.
people show up for. I think we're going to lose Mike Panozzo too. So we're
Yeah, I
just
got a
losing
blast
everything.
too. This was a ton of fun. I'd stand for another half
Well,
hour.
we're losing all the good-looking ones.
Don't go talking about the Mosconi Cup without me, because we're coming back to this whole Max Fleckner thing about how he got cheated out of the automatic spot on the.
Oh, he said the word
Mosconi
cheated out of it. Ooh.
Cheated.
I'm with
Wow.
I'm on Team
And I
Panozzo.
love David Alcade, but using the Champion League as points for the Mosconi Cup was not fair, because guys like Fleckner were not even invited. So he outdid David in 3 out of the 4 events and wasn't allowed into the 4th. So
Well,
Say it louder.
that's
Say
my
it
pitch.
louder.
That's my bitch for
Say
today.
Say it louder.
Did
I
you
hope
say
I
fair
hope
and
I'm
Mosconi Cup in the same? Oh,
say it louder
It's
for
a
the
good-
people in the back.
It's a good
that
talking
what-
point.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, thanks very much. A lot of
yeah.
fun.
I'm
as
gonna
always.
have to bail too, guys.
Yep. Well, here's the perfect time to announce this. If you look at the description for this, you will notice that we are going to be talking about a lot of different a lot of different things. We did not get completely done with them. In fact, we only got through 2 of them. So we are doing another show on Thursday that was already planned, where we are going to be talking about basically everything that we didn't talk about today, which would be the Predator and the Diamond Las Vegas Open. We'll skim over those, as well as the Mosconi Cup announcements. So we'll talk about that. And then we're also going to be talking about a lot of upcoming announcements for events, as well as the Michigan event that just finished up last week. We're going to be talking about Alex and Tony Chohan. We're going to be talking on that show, and we're going to be talking about the upcoming matches like Alex Pagulayan versus Fedor Gorst, as well as Fedor Gorst versus Devin Potit in a one-pocket matchup. Basically, there's still a ton to talk about. We knew this coming in, and we're going to move that until Thursday. So make sure to check out your feeds around this time on Thursday to catch the second part of the weekly wrap-up and look-ahead episodes. And now I can breathe. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Emily. If you're still tuning in, I'm sure you're not at this point, but thank you very much for jumping in. Mike Panozzo, Melina, Mike, Jim, Demetrius, thank you guys all for being a part of the show. And I guess we'll tune off until Thursday.
See you, boys.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
All right.